You are listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today we have a CPTSD episode, and I am going to discuss overcoming codependency in a CPTSD relationship. So, as we know, when we have childhood trauma as we are growing up, and we have repeated traumatic events that affect our lives as we grow and we become older, at some point, a lot of us are going to have relationships as an adult with another adult. And due to our trauma, we develop this codependency because we are not able to look after ourselves. Instead, we have someone else who we expect to look after us. So I'm going to read some stuff and then have a little discussion on my own issues with this and how I am trying to overcome my codependency issues with my girlfriend in my relationship. All right, so let's begin. Overcoming codependency. In this series of articles, we have examined codependency and various types of trauma. We've learned that living in a home where there is a familial violence and neglect can spark in a child the need to be needed and thus set them up for becoming codependent in later life. The article will focus on how to overcome codependency to live a healthier, happier life. A reminder of what codependency is. To talk about the cure of codependence, we must first remind ourselves of what compromises codependency. If the following quotes look familiar, it is because I copied them from pieces from one of the series. Okay. Beatty states the best definition could be as follows. Codependency is a stress-induced pattern of behavior that dictates how a person treats another and how she allows that other person to influence her. The codependent obsesses over the other person and seeks to control them. Darlene Lancer goes further in her definition of codependency. Codependency is more than a relationship problem. Wounds of codependency affect our psyche and individual development. Make no mistake, it's to no fault of our own. Codependency is adaptive and helps us survive growing up in a dysfunctional family system. But that change costs us our individuality, authenticity, and our future quality of life. Codependence is a serious maladaptation to life brought on by dysfunctional parenting when the victim is young. Codependency can develop in many types of relationships, including parent-child, partner-partner, coworker-boss, and spouse-spouse. Codependency occurs anywhere where there is an imbalance of power when one or other or both people in the relationship need to be needed. Make no mistake, codependent individuals don't form relationships, they take hostages. Trauma and codependency. I love the following definition of trauma that I found in a very good article on brightcrest.com. Trauma is not an event or an experience, but rather an emotional response to one. It goes on to explain that trauma happens to everyone eventually in their lives, and some handle it better than others. Trauma includes events of abuse, assault violence, a natural disaster, a fire, or any other type of frightening or life-threatening experience. Serious mental health consequences emerge if we don't cope well with a traumatic experience. We can form a mental health condition because of our being able to come to terms with a traumatic experience. Many trauma-based mental health conditions may arise, such as an anxiety disorder, substance abuse disorders, depression, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and codependency. I believe trauma sets children up for codependency by destroying their self-esteem and their sense of agency. Damage done to their sense of agency is deep because they were neglected when they needed comfort and belonging. The need to belong is such a powerful force in our minds that if we do not receive it in childhood, we will grow into adults who search for either a relationship that matches what we knew and saw growing up. The need to be needed and to take care of someone else is overwhelming. Thus, we fall into codependent relationships to fill that void. How to tell if you or someone you love is a codependent. Although one might think that identifying someone who is codependent would be easy, that is not always the case. This is true because codependents rarely recognize they have fallen into a codependent relationship, and others may not recognize it because codependents are good at hiding what is going on at home. Living as a codependent is unhealthy and one-sided, with one partner or person relying on the other to get their needs met. The other person in a codependent relationship encourages codependent behavior by using the codependent to enable their behaviors, such as substance abuse or other lifestyle changes that are harmful. A codependent relationship is a closed system, almost like a flower that has folded in on itself. The relationship is fiercely defended and kept a secret so that it can continue unabated. Some symptoms you may noticed on a codependent may be have low self-esteem. The person may feel unworthy of the respect of others and a loser. They may feel unlovable, ashamed, or guilty, but put on a front that says you are confident. Have a deep-seated need to please and care for others. It is difficult for codependents to say no, and they feel fearful if they disappoint their partner or coworker. Have a lack of adequate boundaries. There are poor boundaries within a codependent relationship with affection and objects. Very poor communication skills. Codependent individuals struggle to express themselves to tell others how they feel or what they want. Overreacting. In a codependent relationship, the person is likely to overreact emotionally to situations even when they do not deserve them. A few more signs of codependency include having a preoccupation with a partner's well-being, adapting to the mood of their partner and how they act, plus worrying more than the partner about behavior they do. If you find yourself or someone else expressing the symptoms above, they are codependent and need help. Although it might be tempting to step in and point out to a codependent what has happened to them, they will resist fiercely and try to convince you that you do not understand their relationship at all. The codependent must want to be helped, as no one can force them into help. Trauma bonding in a codependent relationship. Sometimes the codependent relationship may become harmful, with one in the relationship being emotionally or physically abusive. Codependents in this case may feel ashamed or too weak to leave their codependent relationship and feel loyalty to their abuser. This is called having a trauma bond. A trauma bond often occurs when the abuser spins through cycles of abuse and affection. The abuser will treat their partner badly, but always go back to showing affection, making the relationship extremely difficult to end. Trauma bonding, however, can also occur without overt abuse. One can develop an attachment and loyalty to someone who is not treating the codependent well and abuses their propensity for needing to be needed. Breaking free of a trauma bond is difficult, but it is possible. Overcoming the effects of codependency. According to Healthline.com, there are 8 tips for overcoming codependency. Let's examine 6 of them. Understand it. Understanding that you grew up in a dysfunctional home and have fallen into a codependent relationship sounds simple, but it is not. No one wants to admit that they were abused as a child, and certainly no one wants to see themselves as someone else's doormat. However, the first step in overcoming any situation is to recognize and understand that it is there. Identify patterns. Identify patterns in your life. the way you gravitate towards people who need and want a lot of help, and how you have difficulty asking for help. Notice how you depend on others for validation instead of self-validation. While these tendencies may make you feel wanted and needed, they are not healthy. Recognize healthy support. Recognizing people who can support you in your life instead of taking from you is vital to overcoming codependency. This doesn't mean that your relationship is doomed, but that recognizing that you can love someone without being codependent with them. The first step in this process is to learn what healthy love and relationships look like. A true partnership is a give and take, with each partner supporting the other. In such a relationship, both partners feel secure, and the pair will compromise or even agree to disagree on some topics. Set healthy boundaries. A boundary is a limit one sets that make people aware when they are doing something that is unacceptable to you. Boundaries are not always easy to set or maintain if you are dealing with deep-seated codependency. You may have become accustomed to making others feel comfortable instead of recognizing when you are having a hard time setting limits. Mind your own business. It is critical that you remember that you can only control your own actions and that your partner is responsible for their actions and behaviors. Attempting to control someone else's actions is futile. However, when your validation comes from your ability to support your partner, remembering this can be miserable. Instead, remind yourself as often as needed that you can only control yourself and that you are not responsible for the behaviors and reactions of others. Value yourself. Codependency and low self-esteem are invariably linked. If you pride yourself and find your identity in your ability to care for your partner, then you will need help to find and develop a sense of self-worth. Learn to like and then love yourself by first paying attention to your negative self-talk and changing the negative narratives about yourself into positive ones. I know it may seem silly and something you don't want to do, but one thing you can do is to print out and hang in your home positive sayings and quotes. Your brain will pick them up and you will feel better about yourself. The other suggestion to overcoming codependency is to seek professional help or attend a group that can help you feel not so alone. Ending our time together. Being codependent is something I understand because I was codependent with my mother for many years of my life. I got up each morning asking myself, how do we feel today? I put my needs and wants on hold to meet hers. Mother, for her part, was verbally and otherwise abusive, but dangled affection before me to bring me back to her when she had finished. Breaking free of codependency is extremely difficult, but I managed to break free after attending a 12-step group called Al-Anon. I realized many readers dislike me mentioning 12-step groups. However, for many people, they are their lifeline. I learned I am a worthwhile and important person who didn't deserve to be serving someone else's needs while sacrificing my own. I hope this has helped anyone who has found themselves in the grips of codependency. If you live your life to please everyone else, you will continue to feel frustrated and powerless. This is because what others want may not be good for you. You are not being mean when you say no to unreasonable demands or when you express your ideas, feelings, and opinions, even if they differ from those of others. Detachment involves present moment living in the here and now. We allow life to happen instead of forcing and trying to control it. We relinquish regrets over the past and fears about the future. We make the most of each day. Okay, so yeah, that's very helpful, and it's a very informative article that I read. A lot of people, when they have been in an abusive relationship, they will be more likely, or I should say a lot more likely to be giving up their own needs and their freedoms in order to, please another person, because they did that when they were a child and growing up with an abusive family, like mother or father or both, and they needed to develop this codependency in order to, survive. So they would do whatever they needed to do to like make their parents, of not do the abusive actions, and to make them happy so that you would feel better or survive. And you basically end up transforming this into an adult relationship that you have later on in life. Now, what are the signs of codependency? Okay, so codependency often has you funneling your energy into supporting the people in your life without making space or even considering what you need for yourself. In other words, when you consistently elevate the needs of others above your own, you may be behaving in codependent ways. Recognizing key signs of codependency in your behavior is an important first step towards building healthy boundaries and honoring your own needs. The more you focus on providing the support you believe others need, the more heavily they may begin to lean on you. Over time, it becomes increasingly difficult to disentangle yourself. Codependency can eventually lead to a disconnect from your own needs and desires, promote unhealthy relationship dynamics, and affect self-worth and overall well-being. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I get back, we will continue talking about overcoming codependency, and I will discuss codependency in general. All right, talk to you soon. Welcome back, everybody, to Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Again, today's topic is CPTSD, and it's overcoming codependency. So, here's another stuff that I am going to read out here, and hopefully this is very helpful for you. Here is an example of codependency in a romantic relationship. All right, your partner is vegan. You don't eat meat, but you decide to also give up dairy for their sake, even though they didn't ask. Their main interests, sci-fi, dramas, backpacking, and craft beers, become your chief hobbies, and you adopt their friends as your own. You usually spend time together at their apartment, since you know they like being at home. Often, you stop by to help tidy up, put away laundry, and do some cooking. They're so busy with work that you know they'd let their chores slide if you didn't help out. Plus, your support reminds them just how much they need you. When they share concerns and frustrations about work, you're always ready with possible solutions. When they explain they just wanted to vent and they don't need you to fix anything for them, you become annoyed and frustrated. After all, you're their partner. Shouldn't you know just how they should handle the situation? What causes codependency? Experience in your family of origin may play a major part in lifelong emotional and mental health. Codependent behaviors are, for the most part, rooted in childhood relationships with your parents and other caregivers. Most contributing factors to this condition begin with parents who, for one reason or another, have poor boundaries. And when your needs continually go unmet, you become unable to assert yourself or even know what you should ask for. Here are some key situations that might promote codependency. Physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, parents or caregivers that ignore a child's needs in favor of their own, a caregiver with a personality disorder such as borderline, narcissistic, or dependent personality disorder, which may encourage you to suppress your self-identity to accommodate them. Controlling or overprotective caregivers who prevent a child from learning safe limits and setting healthy boundaries. One or both parents leaving the family, making you afraid of future abandonment. Caregivers alternating between loving and present and distant and unavailable, contributing to an anxious attachment. Criticism and bullying from parents, siblings, or peers that leave you lingering insecurity in relationships. In any of the above circumstances, you might grow up believing your own needs don't matter, or at least that they can wait. As a result, you learn to ignore what you think, feel, and want, both to keep others happy and keep them from leaving. Perhaps a primary caregiver living with health or mental health concerns puts you in a position where you needed to take care of them. Their caretaking behaviors you learned may become so natural that you can't help but carry them into future relationships. Or maybe you learned that neglecting your own needs to please others earned you praise. You might grow up aiming to please everyone in your life so that you can hold on to their affection and approval. Support for codependency. Codependency is a learned behavior. That means it's possible to unlearn the codependent traits causing you to distress and affecting your relationships and well-being. Left unaddressed, codependency can lead to feelings of anxiety or depression, feelings of emptiness, a general sense of powerlessness or helplessness, diminished self-esteem, hopelessness, and burnout. Lacking a clear sense of who you are can also keep you from engaging in fulfilling friendships and relationships, leaving you feeling lonely and isolated. Therapy for codependency. The signs that were listed above offer a starting place, but recognizing codependency in yourself isn't always a straightforward process. A mental health professional can offer support with recognizing key signs of codependency, overcoming people-pleasing tendencies, addressing related mental health symptoms, including feelings of guilt, anxiety, or depression, reconnecting with your sense of self, and setting healthy boundaries. Therapists trained in family and couples counseling can also offer more insight on family of origin issues and help you begin to address childhood experiences that may have led to codependent coping techniques. Couples counseling, you can go alone or with a partner, also offers a safe space to learn and practice helpful communication techniques, get more comfortable expressing needs and asking for support, and learn to distinguish healthy interdependence from codependence. How to stop being codependent. Self-care. Byros recommends therapy for codependency because it is a complex dynamic that a person can't always resolve properly on their own. The support of a trained professional can help you process any unresolved challenges. However, if therapy doesn't feel right for you or isn't accessible to you right now, there are strategies that you can use to help you take the first step. Spend some time alone. Your relationship with yourself is just as important as the relationships you build with others, so it's important to balance the time you spend with loved ones with regular time for yourself. Alone time gives you the chance to get in touch with your emotions, reflect on daily experiences, recharge your energy, and practice healthy self-care. Yet, alone time can have a broader meaning too. If you find yourself drawn to distressing dynamics with people who rely on you to support them, a temporary break from romantic relationships provides a chance to explore and better understand these codependent traits. Pursue your interests. Perhaps you haven't made time for yourself in so long that you barely remember what you used to enjoy. Excuse me. Establishing greater self-awareness is a large part of overcoming codependency. So, rediscovering the things you like and dislike can teach you more about who you are and what you want from life. Here are some examples. You've always wanted to take up birdwatching, but none of your partners have ever been interested. So you decide to join a birdwatching group on your own. You run with your partner because that's their preferred exercise, but swimming and yoga are the only types of physical activity you enjoy. So you choose to focus on your fitness at the gym and encourage them to find another running partner. Your parents pushed you to enter medical school and become a doctor, so you suppressed your goal of becoming a geologist and studying volcanoes. So you switched career tracks to pursue your preferred career. Next steps. While it's very natural to want to support the people you love, it is also important to draw a line between your needs and theirs. A life lived for someone else won't do much to fulfill you. You also find it much easier to offer support when you prioritize your own wellness. If you have a hard time recognizing your own needs or have difficulty with asking for and accepting support from others, a therapist can offer compassionate guidance and support. You can break a pattern of codependency. These resources can help you on your way. There's Codependence Anonymous, American Psychiatric Association's Find a Psychiatrist tool. There's a bunch of them, actually. If you go to psychcentral.com, there are some links here that you can get to. You just have to find the symptoms, signs, and codependency article that I've been reading off of. All right. So I just want to discuss some of my own experiences here when it comes to codependency. I didn't realize at first when I was entering into this new relationship with my girlfriend 3 years ago that I had this codependent setup. And it turns out that I was suffering, of course, from CPTSD, which has now been well established. And my parts were realizing that I, the adult, were not taking care of my own needs and taking care of my parts' needs when things would get tough and getting triggered. So what they were doing is my parts were realizing that my partner, my girlfriend, was someone who was actually helping and taking or looking after me, the adult, and also looking after my parts. So what ended up happening is that over time, as the established CPT was, set, that my parts were expecting her to take care of things, to take care of us, that in order to be happy and to feel needed and wanted and appreciated, that she would be the one to do this instead of myself as the adult taking care of my needs and looking after myself and worrying about what I need best for me. And so rather, I was trying to look out for her and being aware of what was going on with her so that I would avoid angering her or, upsetting her. So my parts were playing a major role in this. And what was established, of course, was that the parts, instead of, being taken care of by me, the adult, and knowing that a partner, a person outside of me, was willing to do all that work and take care of them, they looked elsewhere. So I became codependent on my girlfriend for my needs to be met. I wasn't taking care of my own needs. I was foregoing my needs and looking and watching after hers and doing things that were in her best interests, like watching TV shows that she enjoyed, doing things that she enjoyed, and not taking care of myself. So I wasn't doing things like watching my own TV or going out and exercising or taking walks or doing drawing or going swimming. There were a number of things that I failed to do on my own because I was worrying about how she was feeling and if she was happy with us. And what ended up happening is that my parts started rebelling and started fighting back because they realized that the adult wasn't willing to take care of myself and take care of my needs when they were being presented to me. I would forego that because I wanted to make her happy, to avoid anger or being, basically being being abandoned, because if I didn't do things right or if I didn't please her or make her happy, there was that fear that she would leave and then we would be alone. And I needed to gain my part's trust that if something like that were to happen, that she would leave because of that, that my parts wouldn't feel afraid and wouldn't be alone, that I, the adult, would take care of us, and that it's only me, only us, my family takes care of us and takes care of my needs and my life. And if I have to be alone in order for that to be done and to be successful, then so be it. And that's the way it goes. And it took a long time for me to get to the stage where that was the truth, and that my parts were able to trust me and rely, and were able to rely on the adult to take care of them. And setting some boundaries and realizing that it is okay to say no and not always want to do the things that she wants to do and always agree with the things that she says was a very important step in realizing that this is something that I can do, and that there is no threat, and that if there was a threat to my relationship because of that, then ultimately the two of us wouldn't be meant to be together. Because a person who likes, someone who is happy in a healthy, in a happy and healthy relationship, would be happy if someone, like, if another person is capable of doing their own thing and, likes their own time together, so they, or their own free time by themselves, so they have their own time rather than always being together with that person. So if I was the type of person that could only feel happy and feel safe around her and not be able to do my own thing, that wouldn't be a healthy relationship. That would be a very codependent style relationship. And it would eventually get to the point where it would be way too much and for her, and this would not be successful and eventually would be a failure. So I had to learn, and I had to get over this whole fear of, saying no, of, this need for me to always have to give in and always do what other people want rather than take care of myself. Eventually, once I was able to get past that and see that everything is okay, and my parts to feel safe when, I do something like, say, I don't really feel like it, or I don't agree, or I don't want to do this, or I need to take care of myself, I need to go out for a walk and get my exercise done, instead of just always being around and always doing what she likes to do and never taking care of myself, then my system was feeling better, and it was feeling more as a whole, more as one rather than a group of parts, individual parts that were all fighting for their needs to get met, and trying to look elsewhere because of the fact that the adult wasn't helping them. And it did get there. It took a bit of work, and I feel a lot happier and a lot more secure with myself. And I am not scared of the possibility or the idea that the relationship could end. Rather than, I feel that I'm the only thing that's important to myself. I'm who makes myself happy. I'm the one that looks after my needs and my life, and I'm the one that determines whether or not I can continue being happy and successful. It's not up to somebody else to get that done for me. It's one of those things where when you finally wake up and you go, wow, that's incredible. I wish I had known that a long time ago. You just have to accept that and realize that it's okay. I was in a situation that I didn't have control over in my past. So it's not like I was able to walk away and avoid this feeling of not having my needs met or not having the proper support when I was younger. It's just the way you have to deal with it. And if you can accept that it's okay now, you are the one who's in charge. You're gonna you're the one who's not going to allow these things to occur, and you're going to look after you, you soon start to not feel that need to be dependent on someone else to feel happy, to feel safe, and to get your needs met. You can do that on your own. It's good, right? Like, that's just the way it goes when you finally feel happy and you feel free and you feel, safe. So one more thing I'm going to read, and then I'm going to end this episode, is the impact of childhood trauma on adult relationships. Okay, there are a myriad of ways that childhood trauma could impact the way you experience adult relationships. This isn't the case for everyone, but it may be the case for some people. Attachment styles. Your early experiences help shape what you believe about the world. It's a secure place versus it's a scary place, or perhaps somewhere in between. This is where attachment theory may come into play. The way you relate to others to establish or avoid intimacy. According to this theory, our adult bonds tend to mirror those we first established with primary caregivers. Based on this, there are 4 main attachment styles. Secure is one. Someone with this attachment style is open to establishing trusting and close relationships with other people. They're not hesitant about loving and being loved. They don't avoid intimacy and tend not to depend entirely on someone else. 2. Anxious or anxious preoccupied. Those who establish this attachment style may experience significant fear of being abandoned and a need to be validated constantly. In addition, they may feel their partner rarely cares enough for them. 3. Dismissive avoidant. Someone with this attachment style may experience fear of emotional intimacy. This might lead them to avoid getting too close to others or to distrust their significant others. As a result, they're often emotionally unavailable. 4. Fearful avoidant. People with this attachment style may crave the attention and love from their significant others, but at the same time avoid emotional intimacy on their part. They may need to feel loved and attended to, but they usually avoid developing close romantic relationships. The last 3 attachment styles are considered insecure attachments. They may pose unique challenges in adult relationships. If you feel like you identified with any of these last 3 styles, it's important to be patient with yourself as you begin to heal. Attachment styles aren't something you choose to do every day. They stem from early experiences that were out of your control. These are not conscious choices. These responses are our brain's capacity to adapt and survive a non-nurturing environment, and they can be worked on and overcome. Trust challenges. It is not uncommon to struggle with trusting others if you've had certain early experiences in life. You may find it hard to trust that your partner is going to be there for you when you need them, or trust them when they say they're going to respect your needs and boundaries. You might also doubt you're loved, even if your partner is expressive about it. Communication styles. Childhood trauma may also affect the way you communicate with others as an adult. Your communication style may reflect what was modeled for you as a child. For example, if you grew up in a home with frequent yelling matches, you may reenact these exchanges with your partner. You may believe this is how you address conflict in a relationship. You may also find it challenging to verbally express your emotions or even talk about what's important to you. Some communication styles that may be related to how others communicated with you or others early in your life include passive, indirect self-denying or apologetic, passive-aggressive, emotionally dishonest and self-enhancing at the expense of others, and aggressive, inappropriate for some situations, blaming, controlling, direct, and attacking. Communication styles are something you learn and develop over time. In the same way, you can unlearn them and learn how to communicate in different ways. Trauma reenactment. In some cases, you may enter some relationships that mimic or reinforce what you learned as a child. This is called trauma reenactment. You may find yourself repeating cycles from your early life and placing yourself in situations where you may be hurt again emotionally or physically. This isn't a personal choice. It may be a defense mechanism that leads you to seek something that feels familiar. It may also be an unconscious attempt to heal through facing the same challenges. If that trauma remains unresolved, people unconsciously seek the comfort of the known, even if it is painful. Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to perceive and manage your own emotions and those of other people in different situations. In other words, it relates to awareness and emotional regulation. People who have experienced childhood trauma may have a harder time developing these aspects. Think of it this way. Childhood trauma may have challenged the development of all the tools you need for your emotional toolkit. Some examples of how EQ may manifest in relationships include collaboration and cooperation, empathy, emotional self-awareness, ability to express how you feel, ability to identify what other person may be feeling, tendency to evaluate your reactions, ability to pause before reacting, accountability, ability to link your thoughts and emotions with your behaviors, and ability to link your behaviors with other people's emotional reactions. Someone who has experienced childhood trauma may have difficulty developing one or more of these EQ skills, but it is a skill that can be learned and developed at any age, and it can be added to your toolkit as you begin to heal. Mental health conditions. Research shows there may be a link between childhood trauma and the development of certain mental health conditions like anxiety and depression. All of these may affect your interpersonal relationships on some level. Only a trained mental health professional can diagnose these conditions or how some of these symptoms affect your relationships. Working on resolution. There's therapy, inner work, relationship care. Relationship care, you may want to share the specifics of your traumatic experience or you may not. Both options are valid and entirely up to you. If you feel ready to share, you may explain to those around you that you're aware of that your childhood trauma may be impacting your relationship dynamic and you're actively working on yourself. If you feel ready and safe, you may also consider sharing bits and pieces of your story with your partner or friends to provide some context. You don't need to disclose everything at once. You may try it one step at a time and see how it feels. Consider Brené Brown's advice here. You share with people who've earned the right to hear your story. But remember, you don't have to share your story at all to heal. If you and your loved ones are open to it, relationships therapy may be a great resource to consider too. Self-care. It is important to fill up your own cup as you work on healing your relationships. While working with a licensed trauma-informed therapist can help you a great deal, you might also want to additionally engage in some self-loving activities that complement your healing process. There are some science-backed lifestyle choices that you can consider to improve your overall quality of life. These include diet, exercise, mindfulness, sleep, and reflection. And a recap. Childhood trauma can affect your adult relationships, but it also can be overcome. It is important to realize that many of your current relationship challenges are not a personal choice. You do deserve love and peace. Some of the coping strategies you've learned from childhood may have been appropriate in the past. After all, they helped you survive, but it may be time to leave them behind. It's important to remember that the behaviors served a very important purpose at the time. They are just no longer relevant today. So we need to learn new strategies and ways of behaving in relationships in the present circumstances. Seeking the help of a professional can become important in supporting your healing journey. There we go. All right. So, if you think that you are in a codependent relationship and that you are always looking out for other people's needs and putting yours aside and doing what is best for your partner rather than yourself and doing everything you can to please them and make them feel happy and heard while foregoing your own happiness and feeling miserable or not happy, then there is a really, really good chance that you are a codependent in a relationship. I definitely recommend looking at getting some help, taking a lot of advice from people who have experience in this. Therapists are definitely a good way to go. And hopefully you can start healing and find true happiness. And if your partner is supportive and understands that this is what is going on, then you have found someone very special and dear and near to you. If they're the opposite and they don't think that this is important, or they think this is silly or ridiculous, or they think that you're just, whatever, I can't really think of the right words, then you're not in a good, healthy relationship, and you need to try and find another way out and get help before starting over. Because sticking around with someone who doesn't support you and doesn't want to be there while you're getting help and healing from being codependent, they're not the right person for you, and you shouldn't be with them, because how can you be happy? And here's the thing. This is why they don't want you to get help, because the moment you start to heal and you start to realize what's going on and your situation, you're going to soon learn that this person that you're with is wrong for you, and that it's unhealthy and toxic and is the wrong thing at the right time. At the wrong time. And you're going to leave. So they don't want you to do that, because they realize that you're going to find out what's going on and you're going to go. That's why they don't want to help. So hopefully if you are in a relationship with someone, hopefully they're helpful and supportive and are willing to go through this with you, and will realize that you have boundaries and needs that need to be met on your own, and that they will be there every step of the way. All right, everybody. That is today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of this and that it was extremely helpful for you. My Twitter address is ADHD and CPTSD. Please give me a shout. Come find me. Give me a follow. I am on there often, and I do like to talk to people. My website is, of course, www.livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. I have my Facebook page. If you would like to support me or show me support, you can go to ko-fi.com, KOFI.com, and you can donate or tip me and show signs of support. I do have software and other things that I do pay for to help make my shows on podcasts and also on YouTube. Speaking of which, I have my YouTube show that I am working on, and I do have some episodes out there, so hopefully you can go and check that out. If you have any suggestions, or you'd like to hear something discussed about CPTSD that you think is important and that you have not heard yet, please come and talk to me. You can go to Twitter, or you can go to my Facebook page, or you can go to the website and you can give me a contact and let me know. I would love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this episode and you know of other people who you think could have great use out of these podcasts, let them know. Tell them about me. Share this experience with people that you know, and the more people who are able to get help or realize that they have means and methods of feeling like they're not alone and that they too can get better, then this is helpful for them. There are lots of resources out there, and I'm just one of those that likes to help and wants to let people know that they're not alone. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. See you next week. Bye, everyone.